So the other week, Romain Grosjean returned to a Formula 1 car for the first time since he went bang at the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix. And that got me thinking, why did it take so long? Testing outside race weekends has been limited for quite some time now, though that's not to say it's banned outright. In fact, up until this year, if a car was old enough, you could basically run it wherever you liked. Ironically, Grosjean's Haas test comes under the introduction of new testing of previous car rules aimed at limiting running even further than before. Just last year, Mercedes ran then junior Kimi Antonelli in a variety of machinery to help prepare him for that step up into Formula 1 this season, and exactly how useful that was might still be up for debate, but once upon a time, a very similar situation could have involved Romain Grosjean. The Frenchman had been a regular in the sport, making his debut halfway through 2009 and quickly gaining a reputation for, well, driving into things, ending on a bang, quite literally when he tore through the barrier on the first lap in Bahrain. Yeah, expect a few jokes like that in this one. But while Grosjean may well be remembered for some of his more misdemeanors out on circuit, for a driver who never really got to grace a proper top team, he did a hell of a lot with what he had underneath him. From becoming the first Frenchman on the podium since Jean Alesi in 1998, to taking the then new Haas squad to points on debut in 2016. This was a career that didn't deserve to end the way it did. Not that any career does, just so we're clear on that. Romain was already headed for the exit door at the end of the 2020 season, Haas choosing to replace both him and teammate Kevin Magnussen for Eggman and Crash Bandicoot here, though this incident, with 2 rounds of the championship still to go, robbed the Frenchman of a proper ending to a career spanning well over a decade in the sport. He tried to make a return for the finale in Abu Dhabi, however the extent of his injuries made that impossible, and just like that, it looked like Romain Grosjean's Formula 1 career was over. Not quite though, and as Romain publicly pleaded with the paddock to be allowed one final swan song on his own terms, the Mercedes F1 team came calling, setting Grosjean up with a final show run in one of their championship-winning cars, and giving the veteran a taste of what life would have looked like had he driven for someone more competent. This was all scheduled to take place on the Tuesday following the 2021 French Grand Prix, an event of course cancelled in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thus, this opportunity gave Grosjean one final chance to drive in front of his home crowd before F1 retirement. The car in question would be the Mercedes W10, the machine that powered Lewis Hamilton to a dominant world title, and if you don't remember anything else about that season, that's also probably why. It was also poignant given we basically knew at this point the French Grand Prix wouldn't be returning after the 2022 season, though not many people were complaining about that. It got so far to the point where Romain was invited into the Mercedes factory for a seat fit. Promotional photos were taken and the news was published everywhere. Formula 1, Mercedes, even Grosjean's official channels, where you can still watch those videos today. Only it's 2025 and I don't think you've contracted dementia. If you can't remember this happening, it's because it didn't. Question is, why? Well, first things first, it's important to clarify the test was never explicitly cancelled, merely indefinitely postponed by the Mercedes team. And that was nearly 5 years ago, so safe to say this is never going to happen. And the reasons are a little bit more complicated than you might think. First off, we've got to blame the pandemic, which over the course of 2020 and 2021 turned Formula 1 into more of a dumpster fire than Romain's Haas in Bahrain. Technical regulations were pushed back, teams could only upgrade their cars using a token system to save costs, and we've not even got into the state of the calendar yet. Having shipped everything out down under to Australia, only to cancel that weekend just ahead of FP1, any idea of a normal season was thrown right out of the window, as new and returning tracks got to cameo as the sport broke all of its own rules to throw 17 races together in 2020. 2021 was a little more organised, though the calendar still remained in a state of flux, and crucially, when Turkey was dropped from the schedule, the decision was made to push the French Grand Prix 1 week forward, and that was a problem. By this point, Grosjean was back in a single-seater, albeit across the pond, over an IndyCar, and while he was busy catching fire in that series as well, it's not like Europe was a quick flight away anymore. The new date of the French Grand Prix coincided with IndyCar's round at Road America, add in travel restrictions and the need to quarantine at the time, and the opportunity for Grosjean to get his final taste of Formula 1 machinery quickly went up in smoke. Sorry, I didn't even mean that one. That's okay though, just reschedule it for another time. However, as time passed, the chances of this happening looked more and more grim. Grosjean's schedule would only get busier in 2022, taking on the entire IndyCar season and soon adding in appearances in endurance racing and broadcasting commitments as well. That kept the Frenchman busy, but left little time for his Mercedes outing to ever come to fruition. The last time I can find Mercedes bringing this up is a 2022 interview where Toto Wolff gives his word to Romain that this outing in the W10 would happen. Guess that's now a phrasing George Russell knows to avoid in his contract talks this year then. Romain attempted to shoulder quite a lot of the blame as well, claiming it was, quote, all his fault that it hadn't happened, and judging by what he said after that, he might just have a point. In the same interview, he goes on to say, quote, "Also, very selfishly, I'm trying to delay it to the point where I can actually test a new generation of cars. But yeah, I'm still keen to do it, and whenever I see Toto, he always confirms that it's going to happen. Yes, it would be very cool to get back in an F1 car." Who was this interview with? Well, it was Crash.net. Okay, well, I've done enough of those jokes already, this needs to stop. Why exactly Romain would want to turn down a car as dominant as the W10 for one of Mercedes' more recent attempts, who knows? Maybe he's just a big fan of self-harm at this point. At the end of the day, Grosjean at least did get what he wanted, a test in the modern-day ground effect Formula 1 car, and this time with his old outfit. Current team principal Ayo Komatsu even returning to his role as the Frenchman's race engineer one last time to give him some slightly happier final memories at the pinnacle of motorsport. While neither Romain or Mercedes have never officially stated that the test has been cancelled, it's fairly obvious that it has at this point, and Grosjean's interviews following his Haas test seem to back that up pretty concretely. It's not very often, though, that you see a sport come together to rally around one individual, especially in Formula 1. But when the matter was brought up at the start of the Singapore Grand Prix weekend, the current crop of drivers were all highly positive of Romain's return to the cockpit. My favourite quote is this one from Lando Norris. Yeah, they probably didn't want it to end the way it did in some ways. Yeah, no shit. And really, the single-seater journey for Romain might not just be over yet, with it heavily rumoured that he'll return to the IndyCar paddock in 2026 with the same team that brought him into the sport after his Bahrain crash in 2021. That's also a series we cover right here on the channel, just another reason to subscribe if you haven't already at this point. Returning to the Mercedes test though, this has always been one of those ones that's intrigued me over the years. It's rare you see something like this publicised so heavily in the beginning, only for it to fall through and never actually happen. Actually, sorry, we're talking about Formula 1 here, aren't we? That shit happens all the time. But I can't help but think that there might be more to this story that we don't know yet. So let me know your thoughts on it all down in the comments below. While you're at it, I'd appreciate it if you drop this video a like, and as I said, probably about 30 seconds ago, getting subscribed as well. We're aiming for 200,000 by the end of 2025, and we're going to need all hands on deck to make that happen. And I'm not sure whether you've heard, but there have been some pretty big developments in one of Romain's Haas replacements, Mick Schumacher. Go check out that video if you want to find out more. Huge shout out to the members and patrons who got both of those videos early, and if you'd like to find out more, go and check out the links down in the description below. I'll be back soon with another video. In the meantime, have a good one.